Welcome to Let's Face the Facts. I'm David Almeida, and I'm your host for this rewatch podcast for the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life. I'm an actor in Orlando, Florida, and every week I synopsize, analyze, criticize, and ultimately idolize the show, episode by episode. Join me as I talk about TV, entertainment, nostalgia, and pop culture with some of the greatest talent that Central Florida has to offer. Hey guys, happy Wednesday. This week, we've got another show via Skype, so again, I pre-apologize for any inconsistencies in sound quality, but I've got a great guest, because this week, Matthew Arter is back. He really wanted to be a part of the 3 episodes at the beginning of this season that firmly establish the premise of the new format of the show now that we're moving over to Edna's Edibles. So it's like, of course, Matthew, let's do this. Let's get it done. Before we get started, got a couple of housekeeping things to take care of. First of all, there was a listener that had alerted me that Mrs. Garrett had at one time driven a cab, that she said that she did that back in her youth, and she mentioned it on the interview show at the end of season 6. Well, that was listener Brian F., who alerted me. I couldn't find the message that was sent to me to be able to thank him properly, so thank you, Brian, who is a longtime listener and devoted supporter of the show, so thank you for that. Secondly, I'm on Sarah Hanshar's podcast this week. Remember Sarah Hanshar was on my show? She did the For the Asking Sadie Hawkins show earlier in season 4. Well, Sarah has a great podcast called Hi, I Think You're Nice. And it's a show where she has me on as her guest, and I talk about, guess what? The facts of life. So if you want to give a listen to that and hear me babble even more, then I will put the link in the show notes so you can listen to her show. And lastly, I have a new Tutti Frutti to welcome to the Patreon supporters. Welcome to Matthew C. Matthew is actually a very good friend of mine, and he and his other half, and I've known them for a long time. I believe more than a decade. I think decades actually would be the word to use, which is kind of crazy, but anyhow, want to send him some love. If you want to be like Matthew C. and support the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/fatesthefactspod, and you can support the show for as little as $1 a month. And if you don't want to pay money to listen and you just want to listen to a damn podcast for free, I feel you, believe me. And I promise I'm going to keep doing the show, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it's always free. Now, let's get to this week's show. This week, Matthew Arter and I watched Season 5, Episode 3, Gamma Gamma or Bust, and the original air date was September 28th, 1983. I think we're ready to jump on in, kids. Let's face the facts with Matthew Arter. Matthew Arter, as I live and breathe.
Welcome, listeners, to the Matthew and David Show.
Okay.
I feel like after 3 shows, I go above recurring character and become maybe like a featured player. Maybe I don't know.
Well, you might. I think your agent should be talking and making negotiations like that. So, how about we table that for a later time?
Okay. All right.
Well, welcome back to the show. 3 in a row.
And after this one, I won't be mad if you don't have me back the whole season, but I will be. But after this episode, all is right in the Facts of Life universe, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, indeed. We now have the episode where we bring Blair into the fold, and now Edna's Edibles is fully established, and we officially have the show that is the new Facts of Life.
The Facts of Life.
The Facts of Life Season 5.
And
because
these writers, God bless them, they waited until the very last second to get Blair back on board. I remember watching it the first time being like, We've got to get her back on board. And they made me wait till the end of the episode to see it. Ugh.
Yeah, I believe the term you used last time was tickling the balls.
Yes, they did.
So Matthew and I just watched season 5, episode 3, Gamma Gamma or Bust.
Yes, we did.
And Matthew is like bouncing up and down. He's so excited. It was directed by Mr. Asad Kelada, who does direct the majority of episodes this season, not all of them as in season 4. And it was written by, good Lord, a team of writers here. Story by George Tricker and Neil Rosen. Teleplay by George Tricker and Neil Rosen and Andy Borowitz. It's like the two of them were like, we've got this story, but fuck, we don't know how to put it into words. Let's get this Andy guy to help us out. Now, just FYI, George Tricker and Neil Rosen, they are involved with many shows. The thing they were most involved with was Too Close for Comfort. They did 19 to 20 of those. Ooh. And several Silver Spoons as well.
Several Silver Spoons. That is not easy for somebody like me with a speech impediment to say, David.
And then we have Andy Borowitz, who helped with a teleplay. He created a little show you may have heard of called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah. And he is involved in 4 more episodes writing-wise, and then he's also an executive story editor for 6 other shows. So Andy Borowitz is very involved in season 5 of Facts of Life, but then quickly takes off for Pastures Superior. Because, you know, Facts of Life is a great show. It's no Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Thank God.
So we begin right at the top of the show. Where are we, Matthew?
We are in Edna's Edibles.
Yay! And how does it look, Matthew?
It looks gloriously 1983, David. It is so brown and rusty and rustic and everything.
It is completely, we saw it in 2 different stages in the last 2 episodes. Yeah. We saw it in shithole, we saw it in its meta phase, and now we are fully up and running, and it is the set. It is gorgeous. There are, you know, breads and cheeses and counters and
but we still have the Eastland School in the opening credits until the next episode.
Yeah, because Blair, you know, by your admission, because we don't have Blair actually living under the roof, it's like, it ain't the show yet. It ain't there yet.
And I hope next episode, whoever you have on, you will remember to discuss how the opening shot for the new Facts of Life, how Edna's Edibles is backwards, and it's a window that doesn't exist on the actual set, and it's a picture of us. It was the what do they call it? The model that they were gonna build, but they didn't build it. Like, I don't know. It's not
like
the
a
set.
Scale model, like a little version.
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. An artist rendering of what Edna's Edibles is going to look like, because that window doesn't exist with Edna's Edibles written on it.
Yeah, that's very
in weird. The place that they have it. Anyway.
And it should be backwards because you should be looking out the window. Yeah, very, very strange. Anyhow, so we are in Edna's Edibles. The shop is up and running, and first thing out the gate, Joe and Mrs. Garrett they're Aaron Sorkining. They're walking and talking at the same time.
Yes.
And Joe is all in business mode. And she's saying, Mrs. G, the shop is still in the red.
Yeah.
And she's like, we've got to streamline. We've got to do what the car manufacturers do. Honestly, I like Joe as the business person. I love the times in the show. And I feel like it's not always that way. Like, it's not something they fully committed to throughout these 2 seasons. Am I right?
Yeah, they never fully called her the manager or anything, but clearly she's the manager.
Yeah, and I like that, and it's a good role for her, and because Joe is so blunt and practical, that's a funny combination comedically to have the manager,
Right.
be that person. It's good. And and I'll point out, you've been open 2 weeks, girl. We're still in the red. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because most businesses, particularly food businesses, they turn a profit in 2 weeks, don't they?
Yeah. Of course they do. Of course they do.
Wow.
This is also, again, I will remind our dear listeners that there's an extra layer of comedy when you think of Edna's Edibles as a drug front.
I completely forgot.
Just
I meant to do that.
for the rest of the scene, for the
I got to
rest of
do that
Edna's
better.
Edibles,
Yeah.
just remember to think of it as a drug front. A costuming note, I wrote, things not to do for teenage girls with weight problems. Put them in a white apron that ties around the waist. Bless their hearts. I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Like, they should not have been subjected to that. And I wish somebody on that set would have been like, how about we don't make them wear aprons that tie around their waist? Or white ones. How about we don't make them wear white ones? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Poor thing.
I agree. It is problematic because Mindy Cohn and Kim Fields, they're not really that heavy. They're curvy.
No,
but the problem is they are
be
both so busty.
Yeah.
And in so many cases on certain body types, busty translates into just looking large.
Mm-hmm.
And they are both at that place in their adolescence. And again, they're teenagers. So their bodies are changing.
You put anybody in white pants and they're going to look like they have a huge ass. You know what I mean? So it just maybe not a white apron.
Something like just the apron that ties around the waist, but the below the waist apron, not the one that wraps over the boobs and comes around the neck. The one that basically is a relief map saying breasts. Yeah. It's like, ooh.
You could show a movie on Natalie's tits wearing this.
Yes. But lest we find ourselves mesmerized by the breasticle factor for too long, who enters the store? Matthew.
The very dark blonde comes walking in. And this is not my favorite hair color of hers.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy. And she's got Bootsy with her. This is our first introduction to Bootsy.
The wonderful Jamie Gertz.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Bootsy?
Bootsy, yes. So yes, Blair's hair is a deeper golden blonde.
I mean, it just looks almost mousy brown to me. Like she and Natalie have the same hair color almost.
But this is just, this is a very toned down, deep golden blonde. And yeah, it is definitely darker than it was last season. And I'm very sorry that you're not happy with it. I'll be sure to put that in with my notes in the time machine. Mm. And she is with the wonderful Jamie Gertz in the role of Boots St. Clair, commonly called Bootsy.
Bootsy!
James Brendlinger loves Jamie Gertz. So James Brendlinger, previous guest of the show, will be very excited about this. This is her first of only 4 appearances. I thought she was on the show more.
But I didn't remember her being on the show more than a couple times, but I like her. I wrote down that she knows why she's there and she's playing the character exactly as she's written. Like, this could have gone either way. Like, she could have been like uber irritating.
Yes.
But instead she really plays it like this is who this person is. Like complete unself-awareness. And it would have been easy for her to go overboard and made her completely unlikable. But she's likable. I like her.
I think so too. For the most part, she is likable. And she had already done Square Pegs at this point. Square Pegs had already gone off the air. Just to do a little quick recap of the Jamie Gertz thing. She was originally in movies like The Lost Boys and Less Than Zero. That's what kind of originally put her on the map. And then after this, she would go on to play Gilda Radner in the TV movie biopic, It's Always Something. And I remember being very disappointed.
Of course you were.
What a thankless job. It's like, poor Frances Fisher playing Lucy in
Playing
the Lucy and
Lucy.
Desi. It's like,
And
what?
Denny Dillon playing Roseanne.
Oh, Jesus God, yeah. Jamie Gertz did the Gilda Radner movie, and I remember it was sad. It was the story, and of course, the Gilda Radner story is devastating anyway, because I idolized her, and God, she left us far too soon.
Oh, Gilda Radner. Every time I think of her, all I can think of is life isn't fair because Gilda Radner's dead and Chevy Chase is still alive and allowed to make movies.
No. Stop.
That son of a bitch.
No.
Ugh.
No. We're kinder than that on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's untrue. By every account, he is absolutely impossible and horrible.
Ugh.
But not going to reinforce those rumors that we know are true.
How do these rumors get started, David? Because I've never heard them. Yes.
Jamie Gertz had two series. From 2002 to 2006, she was in a show called Still Standing.
Yes.
On CBS. Do you remember this show?
I will remember it as soon as you tell me who was in it. It was not Still Standing.
It was Mark Addy played the husband. No. Mark Addy is best known as the fat guy in The Full Monty. And it was just a family comedy about a dad and mom and some kids, and I don't really know much else of what's there. And then she did a few episodes of Entourage, and then 2012 to 2014, she did a series called The Neighbors. I had never heard of this.
Mm-hmm. I remember it.
It takes place in New Jersey, and it's about a family in a townhouse community where the residents are all from another planet. Yeah, but anyhow, those two series, she racked up some episodes there, and that's where she made some money. So good on you. We like you. And of course, the movie Twister. She was the new fiance of
Bill Paxton.
Yes, Bill Paxton. God, lost it. And that was another big one for her in the movie Twister. So anyhow, we like the Jamie Gertz, and we're happy to have her with us.
Sure.
And Blair is dressed in a green velvet blazer. And apparently they equate sororities with wearing a lot of plaid.
Yes.
I wasn't really aware of that. Is that a thing?
You're asking the wrong person. I'm going to surprise you here and let you know that I was not in a sorority in college.
But were you aware of sororities and how the girls dressed? Because
No.
I mean, and it could just be plaid was a thing, but I mean, to me, plaid as a uniform that's your Catholic schoolgirl thing. That's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she does talk about knee socks and stuff.
Yeah, knee socks, and it's gotta. There are times when you're like, to the writers, you want to say, you do know that college is different from high school, that they don't have chaperones and curfews and uniforms. And anyway, regardless, Blair is wearing a red plaid skirt, which in combination with her green velvet blazer, she is ready to escort the children to Santa's lap down at the local mall.
Yeah. Just give her a set of bagpipes and she's ready to play green sleeves.
Yeah. Now, before we continue with any more of the plot, I have to say, this is, hands down, my favorite Mrs. Garrett hair season.
Yeah.
They seem to have finally figured out.
They let out her balloon knot.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm glad I
Oh, David, I love you so much. Oh, God.
No, her bun does not look like a balloon knot anymore.
Oh, God.
It's not this big, tight Katzenjammer Kids thing on the top of her head and overly sprayed. And it seems like we finally have some layers in the front, and we also have just the right amount of backcombing and size. And then there's not really a bun. It's more of a tighter curl ponytail that sort of doubles as a bun. But the whole thing just looks looser and freer and more relaxed. And
you will like it more as the seasons go on.
Yeah, because eventually she does take the length off. I know.
Yeah,
But
and
this
it's almost like cut like how, how in this season Joe lets her hair down. It's almost cut like Joe's hair was in High School USA. It's almost that kind of shoulder length permy kind of. Yeah. So you'll enjoy Mrs. Garrett's hair the farther you get into season 5 and 6.
So Bootsy is the president of the sorority that Blair is pledging. And that sorority is what sorority, Matthew?
Gamma Gamma. Because Blair later on in this episode sings their theme song, Gamma Gamma, Gamma Gamma.
I have a note about that where I'm like,
sorry,
what was that? What? It is so fucking weird. Anyway, so talk about what you talk for a while. Well,
I wrote down something because what the point is, and I mean, let's just cut to it. Bootsy is in need of a caterer, and for the big sorority banquet where they announce the new people coming into the sorority, of which Blair is one. Mm-hmm. So they decide that Mrs. Garrett is gonna be the caterer. Mm-hmm. And this is when I wrote down one of these things that is a sitcom trope of when people lie in sitcoms. Mm-hmm. Because what Blair says to Bootsy is, they say, Mrs. Garrett, somebody says it's her first time catering something.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's my first time. And Bootsy says, your first time? And then it suddenly becomes her first time where she's looking forward to it. Right, everybody?
Yeah.
And it's like, do they not think that we're not smart enough as viewers to know that? I mean, we know Mrs. Garrett. We know Agnes Venables.
Yeah.
For her to have said that bluntly, like, seriously, like, rather than everybody looking around and being like, right, everybody, her first time where she's looking forward to it. Yeah. Yeah. I could have done without it. I could have done without that kind of fake acting, because you know how I feel about Tootie and her acting. There's another scene coming up where she lies, it's just...
Yeah, so this deal of Mrs. Garrett quickly stepping in as the caterer for this party tomorrow night. Yeah. We find out that the caterer that they were going to use went out of business. And Bootsy says they did a clam bake for the young Republicans, and everyone went home with ptomaine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so clearly it was a Democratic caterer. I support them.
And also, one thing can send you out of business, apparently, in Peekskill. Or in Peekskill.
Yeah, the tight catering competition market that is Peekskill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do love, and just so the viewers know, they offer $300 to cater the event. Mm-hmm. In today's money, that is $725.
Okay.
So
that's pretty good. And Mrs. Garrett seems to feel like she can do it. So they're like, okay, great. It's going to happen. My next note, Matthew, was doesn't ask how many people, question mark, question mark, question mark. Doesn't ask menu, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Well, she doesn't ask menu because that's the plot point.
Exactly. We learn later that that's important that she doesn't ask, but I still have a problem that she didn't ask. Just going on record saying that. And Bootsy offers $200, and it is Joe who talks her up to $300. Yeah. So again, Joe, the ball-busting bean counter, right, keeping the business on track and keeping the profits high. So we like that. So basically, Blair is very, very nervous. She wants to get into Gamma Gamma so badly. And Bootsy is fucking with her and saying, you do know how many no votes it would take to keep you out. And Blair says, a lot? And
Yeah.
Bootsy's like, one.
Just the one.
Just the one. And it's like, oh, fuck. So, and then Bootsy says, oh, I've got to go. I'm late for my squash date. Do people play squash in Peekskill?
Well, if they're not wearing plaid, they're playing squash, is what I have discovered.
Sorority.
This next scene after Bootsy leaves, this is when we find out that it's important to Blair to get in there because she's a legacy, because her mom was a gamma, 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 and her grandmother was a gamma, gamma, gamma. And she talks about how excited she is to not be living in the dorm anymore. And I wrote down, she talks about her neighbor listens to... the
soundtrack too?
Conan the Barbarian.
Bless.
I feel like there was a missed joke here for Joe. I'm just going to say that, and then I will bring it back up later on in the podcast.
Okay.
Conan the Barbarian album, missed joke for Joe. Put a pin in that, dear listeners.
Okay. So, the scene basically ends. Blair does say to Tootie and Natalie that she misses them, and she even turns to Joe and says, I almost miss you too. And then, pretty much it's just her saying she's got to get out of the dorms, and the scene ends.
Yeah.
So then we begin the next scene. It's a little bit later the same day. And they are preparing for what they're making for this sorority party.
Yes.
And this running joke of Mrs. Garrett is using a celebrity cookbook.
Yes.
Boy, do they work hard to get the jokes.
Put enough sarcastic quotes around celebrities, but I think they were in on it. I feel like the celebrities they mention are all like meant to give us a laugh.
D-list, yeah. So it's like, I'm making enchiladas by Don Ho.
Yeah.
They're like, Don Ho, enchiladas? Does that make sense? And she says, you should have had the matzo balls I made. The recipe was from Charo. Bless.
And dear listeners, if you are not following Charo on Instagram, you are missing out. Oh, she posts these videos and she's Charo. She's fucking delightful.
So the next scene, while they're doing all this preparation, Blair comes in and is like, oh, good, you're all working. And Mrs. Garrett is like, yep, we're making enchiladas and tacos and refried beans. And Blair has a fucking conniption. And her argument is those foods were so fashionable last month. Yeah, those are last month's foods. This month, it needs to be Chinese food. It has to be.
Yeah.
And you just want to slap Blair. Blair is absolutely insufferable.
It is a terrible scene for Blair. However, she is right. Mrs. Garrett, you've been hired to do this catering, but we haven't talked about menu yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be pissed if I hired a catering staff and they came to me and said, here's your menu. I'd be like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. But that's it. You wouldn't freak. And if this person was your friend, at the very least, you would say, what gave you the idea that I wanted this? Was there a miscommunication? I don't remember ever telling you this.
Right. The conversation would have gone differently if it was a friend.
Exactly.
I agree. Yes.
And so
I love how Mrs. Garrett decides that Mexican, and she the way she says it, enchiladas, refried beans.
Yeah.
Her line readings in this episode kill me, and there's a couple of them. But I love how she says, and it's nutritious too.
Yeah. Is it? Cover it in sour cream. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how nutritious enchiladas and refried beans are. I don't know.
And the other girls all try to step in as this argument escalates. All of them, and it does 0.0 good.
But did you feel like the girls' reaction was a little bit overboard in how all of a sudden Natalie goes, "Calm down, Blair." And then it's, "Calm down, Mrs. Garrett." And I didn't feel like it escalated to the point where those two should have been that adamant about them calming down. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I did. I hated watching watching them fight. I hated that.
The reason I enjoyed it was because Mrs. Garrett has a flaw.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Suddenly she didn't take a breath and handle this like a professional.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't mad at this scene because I actually wrote down, finally, a flaw. Mrs. Garrett has her first customer and she flips out like this.
Yeah. Okay. I will give you that. But the argument escalates to well, I thought, Mrs. Garrett says, "I thought you had faith in me." And Blair fires back, "Well, clearly you're a nutritionist, not a caterer." And
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett's like, "So you're saying you're sorry you hired me?" And Blair says, "You're fired."
Yeah.
And
Mrs. Garrett goes, "Fine!" and goes running into the living quarters.
Storms out. And the others are like, "Blair, what the fuck did you just do?" And they say out loud, "You just fired Mrs. Garrett."
Yeah.
Like the weight of this moment, like, whoa.
And she says, none of us have ever fought with Mrs. Garrett. None of us even thought about it. And I wrote down, they fought with Mrs. Garrett before.
A little bit.
Yeah. There's been times when they've not been kind to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tootie decides to be the go-between. She's going to go fix it. And this is, again, Kim Fields acting, where she's got to lie. And it's just, nobody would take this lie. Nobody would, the way you're delivering it, Tootie. We as audience members know you're lying. We know.
Exactly.
There doesn't have to be looking around and looking behind you and not making eye contact to the point where you're turning your back on people that you're talking to. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, so she goes into the living quarters to talk to Mrs. Garrett because she's going to get her on her side.
Yeah. And because Blair says, "Well, I'll say I'm sorry if she'll make Chinese food, if she'll change the menu."
Right.
So Tootie goes in. And this is the first time we're seeing the living room and the house in the back of the store. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's like going home. Oh, it's like seeing home. It's so comforting. It's like a warm hug. Oh, I love it.
And again, we've lived there, what, 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
Fully decorated head to toe. Not a carton to be unpacked.
Nope.
Not a curtain to be hung or a doorknob to be polished. God bless.
From complete building, from what we understand. Like, it was completely gutted. I mean, when she walked into that storefront, it didn't have a window, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, a completely gutted building has been completely refurbished in 2 weeks.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. There's a great line reading. So, another favorite line reading. "Oh, now she's talking about me behind my back."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, Edna.
Because Tootie inadvertently repeats words that Blair said, that she's being thoughtless and stubborn and self-centered.
Yeah.
And so Mrs. Garrett then gets, and it just escalates, and Tootie has basically made it worse. And as Mrs. Garrett storms up the stairs, she says, "I have feelings too."
Yeah. A flaw. Thank you, writers, for giving Mrs. Garrett a chance to be a human.
Yes.
And I'm not mad at her for these reactions. I'm just saying, finally, I was happy to see Edna have a visceral reaction to something.
Yeah.
Like, that mattered.
What I would have loved is if there was something that gave her the impression that Mexican food was called for. And the fact that it just was completely out of the blue that she made the menu. And even if she said, "Well, Blair, you're only giving me 24 hours notice. This is the only thing I can make on such short notice. I really didn't think you guys were being picky about it because I'm on such a time crunch. That would have been okay to hear
And
her
she
say
does
that.
say that to Blair. She does say that. She
Where?
says,
Does she?
when she says we didn't talk menu, she goes, "Oh, I know, but we had so little time. I wanted to get cracking or something."
Oh,
She does
okay. You're right.
acknowledge it.
Okay. I guess I wanted a little bit more of that. Then Tootie goes back to the store, and yeah, Tootie does the lying thing. Well, you want results? I get results. She's gonna do Chinese food. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the ticket. So
Yeah.
Blair says, I'm gonna go thank her. And Tootie's like, oh no, she's getting busy and you should go. Yeah. And Blair leaves, singing the Gamma Gamma theme song.
Yes.
What would you sing it for us again, Matthew?
Of course, in case you didn't hear all the words. Gamma 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 gamma. That's it.
You're welcome, America.
Welcome.
Uh-huh. And then
you can find that on iTunes.
So before we go to commercial, the final thing is Tootie hatches the plan of, you know what? Here's what's going to happen. We are going to cater the party. Mrs. G is going to get paid. Blair will get into the sorority, and everyone's going to be happy.
Right.
And Joe says, or the other version of the events as they might go, it's going to be a disaster. Mrs. Garrett never works again, and you disappear off the face of the earth.
Yes. Joe becomes Bowser from Sha-Na-Na.
Do-do-dee-do-do. And so with that, it's like, yeah, this could really blow up in our faces. Oh, no. Commercial.
Yeah. What's going to happen next?
So we come back from commercial. We are at the sorority.
Yes.
Not an easy word to say.
Sorority. You don't get the full effect of the wallpaper.
Oh.
So when you watch it, look at the wallpaper behind them and you're like, oh, you don't really notice that it doesn't stand out as like god-awful, frightening wallpaper. But wait, buckle up, dear listeners.
Holy shit.
Yes. This fucking wallpaper.
I did go back and look, yes.
I did too, because it doesn't make you go, whoa, until the next scene when they're all coming in and you see all that wallpaper and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. So Joe and Tootie and Natalie are at the sorority. They are catering. They're doing the work.
Yes.
So they managed to do all this in Mrs. Garrett's kitchen at her place of business over the last 24 hours without Mrs. Garrett noticing or knowing.
Right.
Okay, sure.
And they admit to, and again, just come on, just ridiculousness. Like, they said they substituted ingredients and
they made sweet sour sauce out of vinegar and Ovaltine. Come on.
Yeah. Just come on.
And they said, what about the lemon chicken? And Joe says, well, you burned the red and white bucket. And that doesn't get a laugh. That does not get a laugh because people had to think like red and white. Oh, it's a KFC joke.
Right. Which made me beg the question, why didn't you just go to a Chinese restaurant? If you're going to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken to get chicken, why wouldn't you just go to a Chinese restaurant and order a fuck ton of food? I don't. I get it.
It's the Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right. We'd have no plot if they did that. I get it.
Well, it's the Mrs. Doubtfire thing of that first night when he makes that gorgeous gourmet meal.
Right.
Or it's like, okay, you are doing this and you are working at the TV studio because you have no fucking money. And yet you ordered a meal delivery. And at the time, I think it was like $100 for the meals for all 5 of them, which was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's like, where the hell did Robin Williams get $100 to spend on the food?
Right.
Anyway. So then we get this barrage of jokes relating to that celebrity cookbook earlier. So they say, okay, we've got the David Bowie wonton.
Yes.
The Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters chow mein.
Yes.
The Ricardo Montalban chop suey
Yes.
and the Mr. T fried rice.
But then, like we talked about before, how for some reason they will just use the wrong quote.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, then Natalie, what does she say?
She picks up the Mr. T fried rice,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, this is my fried rice. Eat it.
And the audience lost their mind. Like it was funny.
But shouldn't she have said, I pity the fool that doesn't eat my fried rice?
Exactly. You are
I
100% right.
I don't understand why
Pity the fool. Yeah.
was that not like a or even like now we know like to put in like a eat my fried rice, stay in school. You
Yeah.
know? Like anyway. But
Yeah. No, you're
it
totally
just
right. And 18 was huge. Like that was
yeah.
the sleeper hit of last season that broke into the top 10 for NBC. And it was a mid-season replacement. So 18 was this very big unexpected phenomenon.
Well, and he had done DC Cab and he had done Rocky 3.
3.
So there was nobody that didn't know who Mr. T was in
Yeah.
1983.
But yeah, she did the joke wrong, and yet it still got a laugh. None of the other references I did got a laugh. None of those other celebrity mentions, 0.0. It was like, ooh, those you could tell you
laughed.
engineered.
I laughed. When they said the Mandrell sisters.
Chow mein.
Like, I laughed.
But the thing is,
but the reason they're saying all of that is because they decide to hide the food and they're passing it to Tootie, who then again, was this a choice? I wrote a whole thing about this. Tootie decides they say, let's move all of the gross food to the back. So they all do a assembly line of handing the food down to Tootie, who's at the end of the table, and she stacks them on top of each other. Like, I just what, like, I wondered if that was like a directorial choice, like if they were like, wouldn't it be hilarious if I stack these on top of each other? And they're like, yeah, leave it in. But again, use your brain, Tootie. You're not going to put plates on top of each other. And you are representing Mrs. Garrett's Edna's Edibles, so think a little bit, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
but anyways,
and that relates to the next.
With that.
Clearly, you do not stack your plates around Matthew, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
But it relates to the other thing of they basically say they know the food is bad.
Yeah.
They say hide it. Maybe if we hide it, and then they stand in front of the table. This is where comedy fails. It's like your comedy has got to be rooted in some form of realism.
Yeah.
It's like this, you are serving this food and they're going to eat it. You're not going to stand in front of it and they're going to forget that there's food. It's just like, come on, you need to have it even the slightest bit connected to logistical human thought.
Correct.
And this humor is not. So then Bootsy and the girls enter. They descend the staircase. All the girls who are pledging the sorority, with Bootsy, Blair included. And this is where we get the first shot of the wallpaper above the wainscoting is all the way up to the ceiling over the stairs. So it's 2 stories worth. And Matthew, describe this wallpaper, please.
I can't. It is dark blue with like white lightning streaks through it. But it is just garish. The pattern is huge. It's a bold print. Here's what I thought it was. To me, it looks like a lie detector test. Yeah.
You know when there's the very heavily dense zigzag up and down.
Yes.
It's like tightly compressed zigzags in white on a navy blue background.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's crazy. And it doesn't scream, sororities, yeah, they're steeped in tradition, but it doesn't scream style. It seems like it's like a fun house kind of a look.
Yeah, and it's loud and it's not relaxing at all. It was a very strange choice for me.
Does Beetlejuice live there? I mean,
but more strange for me was when she comes down the stairs leading this group of 40-year-old women. I'm sorry. 20-year-old women from 1983.
You just made me snarf my Fresca.
Did anybody in that group look under the age of 45? It looked like a group of librarians taking a tour of a funhouse. But her line is, and now the highlight of our tour. Really, the living room is the highlight of your tour? And second of all, how did they get in there if they haven't seen the living room yet?
Did they come in the window?
They're coming from the second floor. So I was wondering, like, where did the tour start if they are coming downstairs to see the living room for the first time? And it's the highlight of the tour. Yeah. I don't get it.
And, I mean, we're talking the plaid, the sweaters, the sweater vests.
High neck collars.
Yeah, the sweaters tied around the neck. And, I mean, here's another thing. I don't know if it's here or if it's earlier, where Bootsy says top drawer, where they're trying to do that sort of rich people preppy-like talk. Mm-hmm. It's like top drawer. Didn't Patrick Dennis say that in Auntie Mame in 1958?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Well, the 80s.
Like, she might as well have said, this is the cat's pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. And now the ginchiest part. This is actually a good joke, where she says she's making these comments and even has Blair introduce the food.
Yeah.
Like it's a big fucking deal. And every time they make a comment, Joe and Tootie and Natalie make a wisecrack about how shitty and awful the food is. And the one that I like, Bootsy said, oh, it just looks top drawer. And Joe says, yeah, it is, next to the socks.
Yeah. Hilarious, Joe.
I know. But, okay, but we haven't discussed it. We haven't stopped this plot train here, Matthew, to discuss. Why is the food bad? Why? These girls, for the last 3 years, have been cooking enough food for a school of 200 to 2,000 students.
Mm-hmm. They can't boil rice.
They don't know how to boil rice and add seed. They don't know how to follow a fucking recipe.
Yeah.
Even if the rest, I mean, and I don't know, is the joke supposed to be the recipes are bad because they use the Mandrell sisters? There are other cookbooks out there.
Yeah.
But it's like,
I don't think the recipes are supposed to be bad because the comments about how, these are
Charo's matzo balls, yeah.
Yeah, Charo's matzo balls. So it's just, again, using vinegar and Ovaltine. It was just so ridiculous to me that I couldn't handle it. Yeah.
Not rooted in reality. And anything just to say, I just threw some soy sauce and I wasn't sure, so I added a cup of salt.
Right.
That would have been something a little bit more believable, but it's like, so the fact that the food is bad and that they know it's bad is like, why? You all know how to fucking cook.
Yeah. There's no reason it should have been completely inedible, for God's sake.
No, not at all. And did they want to try to justify it, say, well, we didn't have access to the ingredients because we were sneaking around Mrs. Garrett? Even that would have had some semblance of, well, at least we're addressing the fact that they made this in Mrs. Garrett's kitchen unbeknownst to her. But speaking of Mrs. Garrett, guess who shows up?
I don't know where she comes from.
The kitchen?
Because that's not the front door that she comes in through. Maybe she came in the same door that the tour came in. I don't know.
But she comes in and they're like, oh my God, you found us, kind of a thing. And she's like, you left a trail of Ovaltine.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And Mrs. Garrett put 2 and 2 together. Old Sherlock Garrett over here.
Yeah. I came from my kitchen because I smelled the disaster.
Yeah.
You smelled the disaster in the kitchen, but not while it was being made for you to walk in and say, hey, what you doing? Even if they had said a line, I can't believe we lied to Mrs. Garrett and convinced her this was for something else.
Yeah.
Even that has some semblance of sanity about it. But Mrs. Garrett is pissed, and well, she should be. She's like, you are catering? You just made food and are doing this event while using the name from my business?
Yeah.
And she's goddamn right. And she says it beautifully. You did this. And one of them says, yeah, thanks for understanding.
Well, and I love, Natalie's made the point, like, we've never even fought with Mrs. Garrett. No, but we've sure fucked her over a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've put her into some pretty awful situations a couple
Yeah.
times.
And or ignored her or marginalized her
Yeah,
or acted completely in our own self-interest with no concern for her.
exactly.
Yeah. We have evidence to the contrary. But Mrs. Garrett says, I came here to protect my name. And
Blair confronts her and says, I'm so glad you came to your senses, blah, blah. And Mrs. Garrett tells her what is up.
mm-hmm. And then at that moment, that's when they all turn around and Bootsy says, Warnsy, the food stinks.
But it was such a great line. Just so direct. The food stinks, Warner. And I laughed out loud because of her delivery. And I wrote down, did they miss an opportunity for one of those 80s kind of terms? But they make up for it later.
Mm-hmm. So then Mrs. Garrett, doing what the girls do, lies and lies badly and somehow gets away with it. Oh, well, this food went over so well at Calvin Klein's last weekend.
But if the way she said it, God bless Edna Garrett, God bless Charlotte Rae, if she didn't have the girls behind her going, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah. I would have believed it. You know what
really?
I mean? The way she said it went very well at Calvin Klein's last week.
Oh, did she deliver? I didn't remember. Okay,
yeah,
I'm misremembering.
I would have believed her because the girls were behind her going, yeah, Calvin Klein, everybody.
That's not a lie.
Yeah, it's just such bullshit. But I would have believed Edna the way her line delivery was.
Yeah. And then she says, Jackie couldn't stop raving.
Yeah.
And they're all like, Jackie. And someone says, Onassis or Bissett?
Yeah.
And someone, I think she says, either.
Which I love, that in 1983, they're asking us to know that sorority girls would know who Jacqueline Onassis and Jacqueline Bissett were. However, and the reason I say that is because I just listened to a podcast where Pete Davidson was on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not know who Princess Diana was.
Yeah, I heard that's, oh, hello, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Couldn't pick her out of a crowd. So
yeah.
I find it, Jackie Onassis wasn't on everybody's radar in 1983.
Certainly not college girls, no.
No.
I mean,
but
they knew who she was.
Maybe the wealthy, I guess. I can give it because they're all wealthy.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I just, again.
Yeah. Nope, I agree. Yet another groaner from the episode. Well, but this convinces the girls. They're like, well, let's dig in.
Yeah.
And they jump on the food, and then the scene is over. And now we're back at the living room behind Edna's Edibles, and they are all sitting around just laughing about, wasn't that what a pickle we found ourselves in, huh?
We pulled it off, everybody.
Yeah. Mrs. Garrett comes down the stairs, and Blair does thank her. Blair says, if I get elected, I owe it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mrs. Garrett says, if both of us had handled the situation better, it wouldn't have been necessary. And I'm like, yeah, Mrs. Garrett, you may have fucked up forgetting to ask the menu or assuming you knew and understood the menu without verifying. But the way Blair behaved was absolutely inexcusable. So
agreed.
Mrs.
But
I'm like, Mrs. Garrett extending that olive branch. I'm like, no, Blair should be kissing your ass right now.
right, right. I did feel like this was the first time in the series history where Mrs. Garrett, and I don't know if it was an acting choice or not, spoke to Blair as a friend, not a mentor.
I think
not
so.
like a mother figure, but as a friend.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but it came across to me.
Yeah. And and her at the very least accepting part of the blame. But anyhow, Mrs. Garrett does say, I should have consulted you. And
yes.
Is it Blair who says, well, next time we have a childish argument, let's do it in a more adult manner?
Yes.
It's a great line. I really
great
like it.
line.
So
Bootsy enters.
Then that's right. Bootsy enters. And what does Bootsy enter with?
Bootsy enters with, come on, Blair, we know the food was Barforama. And I just love her.
That was lovely. Barforama is 1983 in a nutshell.
And that's what I was expecting them to say when she said, the food stinks, Warnsey. And that's why I got such a kick out of that line, because it's just, I don't know.
Well, and that's the other thing. Let's continue to tweak this and make and compile our notes for the writers. Back to the food stinks.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it, this is interesting. Indicate that it doesn't taste the way I thought it was going to taste. And then the idea that, well, that's, this is the latest fashion, of course. Anyone can do Chinese food, but the idea of it's, we're back to Henry Higgins, Eliza Doolittle swears in front of the rich people, and he's like, oh, that's the new fashionable small talk. Everybody says fucking cunt now in normal society. I'm paraphrasing Shaw there. Right. But it's the same thing. Why couldn't it have just been something, the food?
Yeah.
And then have Mrs. Garrett quickly make the adjustment and get them in a place where they're like, oh, well, if this is fashion, okay, well, we'll give it a little bit more of a try.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then later to have Bootsy come in and say, the food was Barforama. That would be great to have her be like, yeah, you thought you fooled us. No, fuck you.
Yeah. But she comes in with letting Blair know that she's making a personal call to welcome her into the sorority. That's why she's there.
She has been elected and accepted into the sorority, and Blair is so excited. And she says, yes, well, it is a legacy because of your mother and your grandmother. It's really automatic. It was just a formality, you having to go through the motions.
Now, my question was, wouldn't Blair know that?
Yeah.
If your mother and your grandmother were both Gamma Gammas, like, wouldn't your mother be like, well, you're a legacy. They can't not vote you in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One would think.
Maybe we should ask Melissa G about that.
Melissa G.
She's one of our favorite people.
Melissa G. I just texted.
I wonder if she was in a sorority.
Yeah, Melissa G. Let us know.
She knows how that works.
So after Bootsy leaves, Blair is like, "Can you fucking believe that?"
Blair's like, "This bitch."
I know. But she's like, I've been a nervous wreck for 3 weeks. That's lousy. The whole place is lousy. All they talk about is clothes and money. They're so shallow.
Yeah.
Nice line. And she says, I don't want to, fuck those people. I don't want to live there anyway. I'd rather live in the door. And she can't finish the word. Yeah. I'd rather live in the door. And they're like, oh, really? You think you're going to tolerate the soundtrack to Conan the Barbarian?
No.
And she says, oh, no, it's not Conan anymore. What is it?
It's the Daytona 500 album.
Mm-hmm. From 1974. To
which, this is where the pin goes,
mm-hmm.
Joe says, oh, side 2 is pretty good. Would it have not been funnier if she said that to the Conan O'Brien joke at the beginning.
Conan the Barbarian.
Conan the O'Brien. Ah! If she had not said, she listens to Conan O'Brien, if Joe had stepped up and said, side 2 of that's pretty good.
Oh, that would have been a great joke.
Then when she said it again after the Daytona 500 album, side 2 is pretty good. It would have been a throwback to the I got beer.
Yeah.
Like that kind of joke. I thought,
exactly.
When I heard that, I was like, why didn't she say that about the first album? That would have given her a bigger laugh for saying side 2 is pretty good.
I think you're right.
But that's just me.
So here is where I have a big note for the writers.
Okay.
Wouldn't it have been lovely instead of, I've been a nervous wreck for 3 weeks, that's lousy, the whole place is lousy. Wouldn't it have been cool if she said straight to Bootsy, thank you, but I don't accept? And have Bootsy say, why? And have Blair say, I have been so stressed these last 3 weeks. I haven't been able to think. I haven't been able to concentrate. And she said, and have her say, I got into a fight with a woman who is arguably one of my best friends. And have Blair, number one, indicate that part of her meltdown at the beginning, they never really explicitly say, Blair is freaking out over the Mexican food versus the Chinese food because it's all about the impression it's going to make on the party and the election and my ability to get into sorority. They don't really drive that point home. Blair is just being a bitch. So to have Blair own up to, you guys put me in this position where I acted terribly to somebody I love. That's not cool, and I don't appreciate it. That's all. Number one, acknowledge that Blair wasn't just being garden variety, snotty, bratty Blair at the beginning. It was being driven by her nerves over this sorority election. Do you agree?
And yes, I do agree. And to also, in that speech, let the girls know that she is sorry for how she behaved.
Yes.
Without having to turn around and say, I'm sorry. Because they're watching Blair turn down something that was so fucking important because of her feelings for that. Would have given Blair some humanity. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pushing this point over the top, then we really have earned, I don't want to live at the sorority because you people are so much more important to me than any other fucking place and these people. And then that's where I have her say, it's not an issue if I don't want to go back to the dorms. I don't. But more important than that, I want to be with you guys. I want the team back together. I would have cried. I probably would have fucking cried.
More than I did. Because I wrote down in my notes that, it satisfied me. The writers did a great job in having Blair had to go from not at all wanting to live with these fuckers to wanting to.
Yeah.
Not necessarily needing to, but wanting to. Because she didn't need to. She could have gone to the dorm.
Yeah.
But
or bought a house.
Or bought this house.
Yeah.
But I was satisfied with, they had a tough challenge to get Blair to need to want to move into this house with them.
Yeah, because we actually haven't, I got ahead of us and we didn't actually address what happens is Blair starts playing Pollyanna. Blair starts, I guess I'll just have to put up with the music in the dorm and be unhappy. And then Mrs. Garrett is like, well, there's one other place you could live. And I do like the way they ended it, but we'd have to have an election first.
Yeah.
And then everybody thumbs up, and Joe puts up just the fist and has to force her thumb up. That was a lovely moment. I really liked that.
That's not the first time Joe has put up her fist and had to force her thumb anywhere with Blair.
No.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just letting you know. But
So, but
I was happy with that.
There's a lot of logistical gaps, let's say, in this episode for me. So, Matthew, I know you think the Edna's Edible seasons are some of the greatest. As of this point,
not some of the greatest, the greatest.
The greatest.
Yeah, not some of.
This one has not. This is not good evidence to present to convince me. I did not really, for how many annoying little things that should have been caught or corrected.
But let me, in the writer's defense, dude, the past 3 episodes to get to this point, they had to be fucking exhausted. Like, the whole crew they've rebuilt this set. In 3 episodes, in 3 weeks, they had to go from one set to another set to figure out a way to get all the girls back together. Give them a break. They were tired by the time they got to because you notice like that whole thing where she gets voted in. At this point, they were like, we got 30 more seconds. Wrap it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I wasn't mad at them.
Yeah. And the other thing is Mrs. Garrett does offer it as a place to live. There is no talk that you would need to work here in exchange for free room and board. I mean, it's like, or whatever you're paying the dorm, you're going to pay me, and that's going to help me get into the black now because Joe is breathing down my ass that my business isn't profitable in 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I mean,
I get that they're family, but I also like there to be, clearly, this is my thing. I like stuff to be rooted in reality as far as, okay,
sure,
this is where you live. People don't live places for free. It's got to be in exchange for something, or you have to work. But anyway, so
I hear ya.
Yeah, of the 3 episodes so far, Matthew, this is my least favorite, but I am very sure they have nowhere to go but up.
They don't have anywhere to go but up.
Yeah, this is going to be a journey. Matthew.
Yes, it is.
But I'm so pleased and happy that you were willing and wanting to be a part of this so that you can now say you have closed the loop on the Edna's Edibles seasons. They are now firmly established. The premise is now in place.
And for your listeners that are annoyed with me and are like, I hate Matthew Arter episodes, I'm sorry. You will not have to listen to me for a good long time.
Yeah. Oh, and so many people, Matthew, are I hate the Matthew Arter episodes. Yeah, why have you back so often? Because people hate them. Yeah.
So, thank you, David.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
And there you have it. That was Matthew Arter. Once again, 3-peat guest, first time, 3 shows in a row. Very cool. I always love when he's on, so that was really a no-brainer to have him back. That's all. This week, we're done. Next week, I'm going to be watching Season 5, Episode 4, called Just My Bill. You can watch the episode on the Roku channel or at dailymotion.com. Check out the links in the show notes or on this show's webpage, and they will get you to the episode where you can watch it for free. That's all for now. As always, stay safe and stay sane. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, the facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the let's. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/FaceTheFactsPod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.